Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar on digital tools for more efficient reporting. So today's webinar will be jointly conducted by myself, Trina, and together with another co-trainer who will appear later on. His name is King. So today's webinar was made possible by Google News Initiative. So this entire webinar series has been funded and it's free for all journalists and editors by Google, and it is done in collaboration with Dataset, which is an outfit founded by King. So just a brief introduction to about myself and King is that I am a freelance journalist right now. I worked in Malaysia for about 10 years, so covering political, economics, general news. And whereas King is a freelance data journalist, he has his own outfit called Dataset. And for today's training, we'll mostly cover Google tools, but also some non-Google tools. But for Google tools, you are able to get a more detailed online tutorial as well from g.co/news training, which is the link that's up on the slide right now. So it has video tutorials and also text tutorials, which you can, if you have the time, to browse through according to the subject matter that you're interested in. As for today, Dataset, which is King's outfit. So King has been doing online training and also newsroom training for many different organizations around the region, and also he has done work for overseas publications as well. And he's mainly focused on data journalism. So next week's session will be mainly conducted by him. And what we'll cover today, because we have a lot of topics as you can see, and we only have 45 minutes, so don't mind me if you're going too fast. You can always ask your questions at the end of the session. So we'll be covering Google Advanced Search, Wayback Machine, Google Trends, Alerts, VisualPing, Public Data Explorer, Dataset Search, Tabula, Social Media Monitoring, Google Earth, and Earth Engine. We'll start off today by just going through the basics of what we usually do as reporters or journalists, right? We usually just source information from Google. We type in what we want to look for by keywords, either be background for our story that we're working on, data that we want, statistics, or sources that we want to contact, for our story. So we Google them up, and then we do our reporting, and then we type the story up, and then we file. Now, how do we do this work? How do we make this workflow more efficient? So what I found really incredibly useful for the last few years is that search operators save you a lot of time when you're looking for background information, data, or even contacts, right? So when you use search operators, you immediately save up on time by narrowing down, refining your search results. And we'll go into that later. Second is that whatever that I do, I compile all my research information and even type my stories on Google Docs because it's all on cloud, so I can access it anytime. If you're a Microsoft user, there's OneOffice. That's also doable because it's also on cloud now. So you can save up everything in at just the tip of your finger. You can just access it from your phone instead of opening your laptop to look for like the Microsoft Word offline version for the stuff that you have saved on your computer. And then you do your reporting on the story, and then you do have to do the next step, which is the painful process of transcribing the interviews, especially when you do an interview with a politician or a very long-winded person and it lasts for an hour and a half, and you realize after the interview that you have to transcribe the entire thing. So there are actually apps out there that helps you do the transcription. So, and it's pretty more or less like very, very accurate in that sense. Of course, you have some deviations, but that's very minimal. So, and then lastly, you type the story on Google Docs again, and then you send it out. So we'll go through the workflow. First of all, we'll go through searching operators. Right, and so the first search operator that I would like to introduce to y'all, if you don't know about this by now, is that the quotation mark. So the quotation mark is very useful when you want to narrow down and refine the results according to keywords. So on the left, you can see I searched up a Singaporean politician, Joan Pereira, and I wanted to see what her policies are on women. And so I just put Joan Pereira policies women, which is what most of us usually do, right? But, and I mean, I do get some results, but then I also have all sorts of random results. So then I end up having to scroll down, and maybe I might even need to move to page 2 to get more background information before I actually maybe do the interview or do the story. So, but if I were to just narrow it down by using the quotation mark, I could use Joan Pereira quotation mark, I could use quotation mark policies, quotation mark woman, and then I will get very specific results related to what she has said about policies on women. And so then that immediately my search results comes up very differently, as you can see on the right. And the next key advanced search that you want to talk about, the search operator, there's two. One is called and by default, Google always put the and in your search result anyway. So when you have several keywords put in, by default, the and is there. But usually you use the and to pair it with another search operator. So and or, I think it's a dead giveaway. What it means is either or, right? But you just so FYI, you know that it's there, and you also know that the pipe symbol can be used as an operator for or as well. Another one is the. So the is usually for titles. So this example, I use notebook because if you look up notebook, you get laptops. But if you look up for the notebook, then you get the movie itself. And minus is useful when you want to omit certain search terms in your results. In this example, I put Mahathir Mohamad in quotation mark and then minus Prime Minister. I could also put minus Prime Minister in quotation mark. So whatever mention of him as Prime Minister will not appear in my search result. Next is cite double dot. And cite double dot, I realize, have been incredibly useful when I want to look up for search terms by keywords, but I want it fast and I know which particular website I want it to, I want that information to come from. So you could do cite double dot. Say, for example, I've done it to look up for background information on stories. I remember Malaysia Kini having done up the story and in the past, but I can't remember the exact title of the story and I can't remember exactly when it was published. But I did know that I read it from Malaysia Kini. So I put in the keywords and I put cite double.malaysiakini.com and then the result will come out. And it will only show articles from Malaysia Kini. And in this example, I put Azmin Ali and I wanted to see stuff that was published on the MEA, which was the previous ministry portfolio that he was holding, and see what MEA website says about him. I could also, if I don't want to go by ministry specific, I could go by gov.my or gov.sg. Just remember there is no spacing, it's cite double dot and then the website link. And the next one is on file type. File type is also incredibly useful when you're looking for data, statistics, or stuff that that especially government has mentioned in the past and published, but you're not able to find it by just doing a simple Google search. So file type allows you to search up docs like the normal word doc, docx, PDF, PPT, PPTX, TXT, and even Excel file like XLS and XLSX. So, and I have done it in the past to look up for statistics, government statistics on say cargo, accidents, even mortality, infant mortality rate. So it depends on whatever data that you want, right? So, and you can even combine different search operators together. So in this case, you could use quotation mark a search word, keyword, and then you could use file type double dot, say PDF, because for some reason, governments in this region like to even put their PPT online in PDF format. And you may be able to find some information, right? And then you could also add in cite double dot gov.sg or gov.my behind. So you could use file type, the cite double dot, and then also the quotation mark, or even you could just also add in the minus to exclude certain keywords as well. You can combine all of it to find particular information that you want to look for. And all of these search parameters are actually available online. So for Google, there are at least several dozen search parameters. It is in this link, bit.ly/GNI search. Don't worry, we've compiled a tip sheet at the end, which you can just snapshot the tip sheet link. And we have included all the links of what we're covering today in the tip sheet itself. And next is on, yes, Google Advanced Search also has a specific page, which you can then narrow down your search result, not just by keywords or by timeline, but also by the language and the region that is published and when it was last updated. And this can be very useful if you're looking for very niche and specific items. And if by all means that you have done all your best and search up on Google and you still didn't find the stuff that you want to find for, well, there is the other alternative, which is MSN Bing. Not many people use it, but it is there. And they also do have their own search parameters, which is very similar to Google search parameters, but with some slight variations. So to get the full list of search parameters for Bing is also given in this link, is.gd/Bingdocs. And then the other thing that maybe some of you know, but it turns out that from our previous last year physical workshop, we realized that a lot of people didn't know that you could search by timeline. So if you go onto your Google search and you look it up, maybe you've done your keyword search with your quotation marks, then you could go and click on tools, and then by default, it would show you anytime. So you could click, past hour, past 24 hours, past month, past year. You could even custom range it. In this example, I wanted to find what was mentioned about Anwar's sodomy verdict, but because he had 2 sodomy cases, so I wanted to find the one that was specifically in 2014. I remember it was somewhere around March or April 2014. So I put a customized date range of between March to April 2014, and then I would get the result, which was articles specifically only from that period in time mentioning Anwar Ibrahim, and it has to do with his sodomy trial verdict. And another important tool that is that maybe some of you also may know is called Wayback Machine. So sometimes we want to know how a blog or a certain website used to look like maybe last year or 2 years ago, maybe 5 years ago, right? But we have no way of knowing because this website has dramatically changed since then. So we could actually go to Wayback Machine, put in a link, and then click on Browse History, and we'll be able to see when was this website snapped by Wayback Machine. But because Wayback Machine, it crawls the internet, and there are like over 500 billion web pages. So therefore, they don't the period time lapse between saving a page can be pretty long. So you could also do this. Instead of you could do a screenshot like of the website that you know of now. Instead, for maybe example, you're afraid that after you publish a story, that company might just change their website the next week or something, and you want to save it. Usually, you just do a screenshot. But what you could also do is that before you publish a story, you're afraid that this company is going to change the website description or details. You could actually click on the save, copy and paste the URL on the save page now, and click save page. And that way, Wayback will actually then immediately archive that link for you already. So then you could go back, or you can ask, or you can even share that link with others, and so others can go back to see on Wayback Machine how that website was a few weeks ago. So once we've done all this research for our story, so we compile the research information on Google Docs. And the reason why I say Google Docs is incredibly useful is because, well, as reporters, you're constantly on the road, you're out in the field, and you don't necessarily carry the laptop with you at all times. I've had many encounters or situations whereby I'm having dinner outside, or it's the weekend, I'm not on duty, but then an editor calls me up or messages me and asks me for information about a story that I worked on before. Now, what do? I can't be carrying my laptop with me 24/7, right? But everyone carries their phone with them all the time. So if you have everything saved on cloud, either on Google Docs or Google Spreadsheet, or if you're using Microsoft, you have one office and you save it on like Microsoft Word in one office, then you could actually easily just access the information and provide that information and reply your editor immediately. So then you do your interview and you do your transcription, and then you type your storages back to Gdocs, Google Docs, because you never know when you need to get that story back. So it's better to have it online. So let's go to transcribing. Okay, so for transcribing, basically this is only for Android users, unfortunately. So there is this app called Google Live Transcribe. It does transcription pretty accurately well, and you can do it for multiple languages. So in this region, it's very, very common to go to a press conference and have like at least 2 different languages spewed out in one press conference, right? And so but the only downside is that you have to manually tap to change the language. So for example, the press conference started off in Bahasa, then you just select Bahasa. And then halfway through the press conference, that person switched to English, then you have to change it to English, and then it will then transcribe for you in that selected language. So if you don't select the correct language, the transcription will be in error. But for iOS users, the other option that you have is Otter, which is available for both Android and iPhone users. But the downside to Otter is that it's only available for English transcription. So because I am an iPhone user, so I use Otter, and I find that their English transcription is pretty accurate. Of course, it depends on the quality of the audio, because if you're in a room with a very bad quality speaker audio, there's a lot of echo or there's a lot of side noise, then it may affect the transcription. But generally, I think that in like probably 8 or 9 times out of 10, Otter has worked pretty well in terms of detecting the source audio and also transcribing it. Well, and also, of course, because Otter only works for English, and I have had situations whereby, the transcription went haywire when a person suddenly switched to Bahasa. But the thing is that the way Otter works is that it comes in, so it transcribes you in like a notepad form. So you can easily go back to the part whereby it goes wonky and just tap on it to listen back to what was actually said and correct the transcription in the notepad. Next, we'll talk about Google Trends. So Google Trends, it's something that we want to talk about, even though not many journalists in this region use it, because Google Trends offer you ways to tell an interesting story. And if you go to Google Trends website right now, you would see the layout. Immediately, it will tell you what's trending on the internet is coronavirus search trends, the George Floyd protests, and the LGBTQ Pride Month. And then you could do your own search as well, which you could search over time. And in this case, I put in Muhyiddin Yassin, and by default, it will show you worldwide and also the past 12 months. And all categories and web search, which you can then narrow down if you want to be country specific or you can be time range specific. And in this case, you can see there was not much chatter about Muhyiddin Yassin until suddenly, at the end of February, it spiked up exponentially because he took over prime ministership without an election. So you can see that, that obviously the interest by region, top of it all would be Malaysia, but then subsequently, it's all the neighboring countries. And then you can compare Muhyiddin Yassin with someone else. It can be a person, an object, or a topic, right? So in this case, I put in another person, and I put in Mahathir Muhammad. And so you have to be very clear when you put in key Muhyiddin Yassin, they automatically, it will come up to you to recommend you, that this is the person. So you have to click on the person as opposed to just Muhyiddin Yassin, the search term. Then you would get, people who are also having a similar name, or could be Muhyiddin Ahmad and then Yassin Mazli, being mentioned together in the same article as 2 different persons. So you have to select the correct person, and in this case, same thing as well for Mahathir Muhammad. You has to be the former Prime Minister of Malaysia. And then I put in a country, Malaysia, and I put in a time frame. I wanted to look for stuff that's been search trends that started from the end of December, from end of last year, December, until recently. And then I can see that, okay, again, the search trend went up, was up at the end of February for Muhyiddin, and then for Mahathir somewhere, I think this is at the beginning of March. And so then you can see the chatter, the sequence, the pattern. And then after that, you can also see breakdown by sub-region. It looks like people from Terengganu are the most interested in this topic itself. And this is another example done by Washington Post in April. So what they've done is that they wanted to see how differently people have searched for search terms on, questions on Google compared to now and last year. So from April last year and April this year, how has it changed? And you can see that, last year, April was, pretty much like how to take a screenshot, how to train your dragon, how to tie a tie. And now it has become a totally different world that we live in. So this keywords that search terms that people look for on Google now are, how do you make a mask with fabric? How do you make hand sanitizer? And this is very interesting because it's also adaptable to your own sublocal region, because you can narrow down, as you can see earlier, search terms, search the trends by according to country. And so if you're in Singapore, you could put in like, how do people search for keywords in Singapore like a year ago and now? And I bet that would have been changed. That would have changed dramatically. And you can even do it in a different language, right? You could even put in Malay words if you're looking for a Malay publication, and see how the search terms, search queries in Malay have changed in your region from last year to this year. And this is a project that was done by Google Trends in collaboration with another company. And what they've done is that they wanted to see how people search about COVID and how that has changed ever since the beginning of January this year until now. And you can see that, at the beginning, the search was not that prominent. There was not that many people searching about COVID. And then it kind of just exploded as March came along. And it started off with stuff like, where did COVID come from? What are symptoms? To now more specific and niche questions about COVID-19. And the other topic we want to talk about is Google Alerts. So Google Alerts is helpful when you don't want to always check on a specific topic that you're following on, right? You don't want to keep looking for it on Google. You don't want to keep reading about it every day because then you have to do extra legwork. You want it to be sent to your email. And that makes it very convenient for you. So in here, you could actually put in this search term, the keyword that you want Google Alerts to trawl and find for you. And so in this example, I put in Black Lives Matter, and you can even adjust to how do you want it, once a day, once a week, every few hours. You could even narrow it down by source. I only want it from this specific website or by language, and you could narrow it down by region as well. And then you can deliver it to your email. So then if I were to track a particular topic or issue and I'm working on this story long-term, I don't need to keep checking back on it. I could just use Google Alerts and it'll send a mail to me once a day or once a week, and I'll be able to get updated on what's happening. And this is done by Washington Post. So they've actually used Google Alerts in order to tell a story because they realized, and this project has been ongoing, they updated it to 2020, right? So they started, I think, in 2015 or 2016. What they did was that they realized that the data that was given by FBI in terms of people getting shot and killed by the police annually was different from what they managed to get out of Google Alerts. So by just tweaking the algorithm from Google Alerts, they managed to just figure out, okay, because US is a huge country with 50 states, so they can't possibly be in every state, but they know that local papers should probably cover local events. So if there's a local incident whereby a police brutality happened, it would have been reported by that local paper. And so then that would come out on Google Alerts as well. Or if someone posted it on their blog, right, or social media, and then they will be able to track it, and that will also get picked up as well. And so they developed this algorithm that pulls off data from Google Alerts, and then they've been able to track annually how many people were shot and killed by police. And they've been doing this for the last few years. So it's a really amazing project, and that's still relevant up until today. So next, I'll pass it on to King, who's going to talk about another free tool called VisualPing. So King, on to you.
All right. Thank you, Trina. Can you hear me and see my slides? All right. Okay, I'm going to continue with this presentation and cover several more tools that I think are very helpful for journalists. The next I want to talk about is a tool called VisualPing. I have been using this tool, for many, many years already. So just now, the Google Alerts will send you an alert, based on the keywords that you set, right? So when there's a new article about, say, Black Lives Matters, then you will get an alert. But what about if you want to monitor a website for any changes on that website, then you use this tool. It's called VisualPing. So what happens is that if you go to VisualPing, it will ask you to create an account, and you can tell VisualPing that I want to monitor this particular web page. And when there is a change on the web page, right, whether there's a change in the graphic or in the text, right, then VisualPing will send you an email telling you that, hey, we have spotted a change on the website. And you will be able to compare before and after. So for example, I have been monitoring this website set up by the Malaysian Anti-Corruption Commission. This website is to update the asset declaration by our ministers as well as member of parliament, right? So whenever there's an update, right, they will not send the journalist a news release. There's no announcement, nothing. They just update the website. So if you want to know if there is something new on the website, for example, last year, because I use VisualPing, right, I don't have to go and visit the website every day to see if there is a change, in the asset declaration, right? What happened is that last year, our former Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad, his monthly income actually increased from about 75,000 to 100,000, and I was able to know about this, at the first when they first updated the website, because I use VisualPing to monitor the website. So when the website changed, when numbers of Mahathir's salary changed, right, I received an email from VisualPing telling me that, hey, this is different. There's a new data in that page, right? So in this case, I was able to do a story based on that, right? So it is very helpful tool when you want to monitor website and you don't want to go to their website and check the website every day, right? So you use VisualPing. So another challenge is that currently this website, right, in Malaysia, we had a new government form 3 months ago, and now they have taken down the website. So the website is no more there. This asset declaration website is no more there. So how do I get the old data that were published last year, right? And in this case, right, if I want to do that, again, just now the tool that Trina has shown you called Wayback machine, you can use that to trace back, the data, the salaries of the assets values of this member of parliament or ministers in the last 2 years using Wayback machine, right? So that is another use case. All right. A lot of time, we journalists, we have to deal with a lot of data when we want to report on something, right? So I'm going to share with you a few tools that can help you to find data very quickly. The first one, this is called a Google Public Data Explorer. So it works like a Google search engine. The only difference is that this is for you to search for public data. In this case, the data here collected under the Google Public Data Explorer is usually international data compiled by international institutions. And they are usually very reliable data, for example, data from the United Nations, data from the World Bank, and things like that, right? So there's no need for you to do verification because all this data have been verified. But again, you might not get national, data that is lower than national level. For example, the data for different districts in your country, you won't be able to get that. But you can get national level data very easily. In this case, right, it also means that you can compare the data between different countries. And not just getting the data, you are able also to generate a animated and interactive chart by using Google Public Data Explorer, right? You just have to change the data of the axis Y and the axis X, and then you will get a new chart, right? And the chart is animated. For example, this is a chart that shows the fertility rate versus the life expectancy of different country. And you can color, so each bubble represents one country, right? The size of the bubble represents the population of the country. And the colors of the bubbles represent different continents, different regions in the world. All these things can be customized. You can change the data. You can change how many countries you want to visualize on this interactive chart. You can also change the colors of the bubble and the size of the bubble. And after you have done this chart, right, you can then embed the chart directly into your web page, right, by clicking on the share button, right? So if you just wait a few seconds, you can see that, okay, I'm now going to click on the share buttons, and then there's a embed code. It's just like you embed a YouTube video or embed a tweet in your story, right? You can also embed this chart in your story, right? So Public Data Explorer is a place where you can find international data. You can also visualize them into chart, and then you can embed the chart directly into your web page, right? Then Google also introduced another tool. I think this was like 2 years ago. It's called Google Dataset Search. This is a search engine, but it's a search engine only for data. So when we're using Google search engine, right, we search for all information. We search for web pages or images, right, or videos on internet. But if we are using Google Dataset Search, which means we are only searching for data set. And in order, right, it doesn't mean that you can search all the data sets in the world using this tool. it only collects data sets that meet the criteria of Google, right? Google has set a criteria, meaning that if you want your data search to be searchable in the Google dataset search, then your data sets have to meet a series of criteria, including like you have to state it very clearly who owns the data, what is the copyrights of the data, and how reliable the data is, and all this what we call metadata of the data, like information for the data. So why Google is doing this? Because Google wants to make sure that this data is reliable and is credible. So if you try to search data in using this tool, the data sets that you get are usually quite reliable, right? But again, you are a journalist, you should be, suspicious. You should do your due diligence, when you are getting any information from internet. But I'm trying to say here that Google has put in a set of criteria for those data sets to appear in this tool. So which helps to increase the credibility and the accountability of the data sets, right? So if you want to find some data sets and you don't have the time to go to verify the data set, to check the background and everything, Google Dataset Search is actually a very useful tool. But again, because it is using only data sets from credible institutions, so sometimes it might not have the data set that you want. For example, data set of your country, your district or your neighborhood, this kind of data is not there, right? So a lot of the time when we go and find data, besides from getting data from those websites, right, that I just showed you, a lot of time we also get data, especially from government, in the form of PDF, right? The government will publish data in table format and in a PDF file. It could be a government report, annual report. It could be daily updates of, for example, the COVID-19 cases. Every day they will issue a press release in PDF. This is what's happening in Malaysia. The government will issue a PDF file with all the statistics and the tables in the PDF file. If you have worked on this kind of data before, you should know that you can't just copy paste the table in the PDF into your spreadsheets or your Excel, because it will not appear as a table. Sometimes the alignment will not be correct, and you have to do a lot of manual fixing. So this is where we need to use tools that help us to convert data from PDF to a spreadsheets. And the tool here that I want to introduce you is Tabula. So Tabula is a tool that is developed by journalists for journalists. It is open source, it is free, and it has been updated many times already. So it is quite useful and it's very easy to use. I'm going to show you how easy to use. So for example, this is a PDF file. There's a table inside a PDF file. Once you upload the PDF file to Tabula, you just have to select the table. So in this case, select the table, highlight it, and just convert it. And straight away, you will get all the data converted into a table. And once the data is in the table, you can then copy and paste into your spreadsheets, right? For example, here you copy and paste into the Google spreadsheets, or you can download it as a CSV, all right? So as simple as that. But for Tabula, right, this tool, you can get the website to download this tool is tabula.technology. You can access all the tools that we share with you today in our tip sheet that we will share with you end of today's webinar, right? So don't worry about taking notes, because we'll prepare a tip sheet and it has all the links and all the important information that we have presented today, okay? So Tabula, you need to install it on your laptop and then you can use it for free, right? The next set of tools that we want to share with you is about social media monitoring. We know that a lot of journalists, trying to find stories from social media. They want to know which kind of posts or content has gone viral, has received a lot of attention on social media. So we have a few tools that we can share with you. First is called CrowdTangle, right? CrowdTangle is actually a tool owned by Facebook. So this is not a Google tool, owned by Facebook. And currently, it offers free access to only newsrooms, right? But most of the major newsrooms have access to CrowdTangle. So if you want to know if your newsrooms have CrowdTangle or not, you can try and check with your social media editors. Usually they have access to CrowdTangle, right? So CrowdTangle will be able to help you to monitor Facebook pages and Twitter, right? Based on keywords, you can also curate, you can also compile a list of Facebook pages or Facebook accounts that you want to monitor. So whenever there is a post that has, unusual spike in engagement, for example, unusual spike in the number of shares, number of likes, or numbers of comments, right? And CrowdTangle will show you in the dashboard, right? You have to sign in to your dashboard. You have to select all the pages that you want to follow. And whenever there is a unusual spike in terms of engagement, you can customize what kind of engagements you want, and CrowdTangle will show you when there is, which posts have received unusual engagement or unusual shares. So in that, using this, you're able to monitor what people like and what people are sharing on Facebook or other social media platforms, right? What happens if you are not working in the newsrooms and you don't have access to CrowdTangle? CrowdTangle has another tool. It is a Chrome extension. It's called CrowdTangle Link Checker, right? That is free for everyone. As long as you are using a Chrome, you are able to install it as a Chrome extension. So what this tool does is that the tool, if you go to any web page, right? If you click on the extension, the CrowdTangle Link Checker, right? It will tell you how many times this web page has been shared on Facebook and on Twitter and Reddit and Instagram, right? So if you want to know how popular this web page is, how many times people share it on Facebook or other social media platforms, you can use this tool. So this is also very useful when I want to know, like, oh wow, my competitor did this story. Does this story how this story does, right? Because you cannot access the page views of the stories, right? Only the website manager can access the number of page views, right? But you're able to use CrowdTangle Link Checker to know how many times this web page or this story has been shared on Facebook. From there, you can estimate how popular this article is, and that is helpful for us to know what kind of topics and what kind of content are people consuming, are people sharing right now. Okay. Another free tool, if you don't have access to CrowdTangle, is nuzzle.com. This one is used for Twitter. I know a lot of people use TweetDeck to monitor Twitter, right? We also recommend you to use nuzzle.com. It also allows you to, so if you already have a Twitter account and you follow a bunch of Twitter users that you want, that you curated, right? Like, let's say you only follow all the politicians in Malaysia. So Nuzzle will be able to tell you that, what are the tweets or what are the stories, what are the content that these people are tweeting right now, right? So it is for you to know if you follow, if your bit is politics or if your bit is education, you follow a bunch of educators on Twitter, right? Nuzzle will be able to tell you, what are the hot topics among these people right now. So again, this helps you to evaluate, to understand what's your industry or what's your bit is talking about, and it helps you to plan your story. It also helps you to produce stories that people are concerned about. All right. And the last batch of tools are about visualizations, satellite images. Okay. The first one I want to share with you is a free tool called Google Earth Pro. So using the Google Earth Pro, you have to install it. There's an install version. There's also an online version that doesn't require any installation. So you're able to do video like this that I'm showing you right now, right? You are able to look at the Earth and zoom in to the location that you want. you will be able to access satellite images at different times, right, for certain locations on Earth. For example, this is a time lapse that I did for this project in Malaysia. It is called Forest City. This is a controversial project because it is totally funded, owned by Chinese company, and they actually constructed from nothing to a man-made island, and they built a whole new neighborhood there, and most of the buyers are actually Chinese from mainland China, right? So this is a huge issue during the last election, during the last Malaysian election, right? So you can, using Google Earth Pro, right, it allows me to access satellite images. Sometimes the resolution is high enough for us to do story, for example, here, right? And it's very clear. So you can actually compile different satellite images, right, from Google Earth Pro, and to construct this kind of, I made this as a GIF, right, as a GIF image file, right. You can also do it as a video file, as a series of pictures, right. It is very useful when you want to visualize changes on the Earth's surface. For example, logging, deforestation, forest fire, right, or even haze, right. The haze, the annual haze that we have been experiencing every day in Southeast Asia, every year. Sorry, not every day. Right. The other tool that is very similar to Google Earth Pro is called Google Earth Time Lapse. Right. It's very similar. The only different thing is that this tool has compiled different satellite images over a period of about 30 years. I think it started from like 1980 something until the latest is like 2018, the satellite images. So you're able to, again, construct a time lapse using this tool, right? Google Earth Pro is like you are able to access the satellite images as a single graphic file. This one is that you are able to straight away construct a time lapse using the Google Earth time lapse. Sorry, I just pay you this video that I made. Sorry, I didn't make this. This is already made by time lapse. So you can see this is the development of Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, right? All the way from I just replay it again, from the early 1990s until 2018, right? So again, this is the tool if you want to visualize land cover change, for example, deforestations, for example, the melting of iceberg and things like that, natural disaster, right? If there's a tsunami or typhoon, right, that has caused huge damage to the physical appearance on Earth. Urban expansion. Just now we look at the Kuala Lumpur expansion over the past 30 years. Resource extractions, deforestations, or extractions of, for example, new mining grounds and things like that, right? The other tool that not many people use is called Google Crisis Map. This is very useful if your countries always have natural crises, for example, typhoon and things like that, tropical storms like that. So if you go to Crisis Map, right, Google will update the map from time to time and show you different natural crises that is happening at different locations on Earth. So currently, if you just this is the current Google Crisis Map. If you go to the website, you will see that it is now showing you the tropical storm of Cristobal in US. You will see that this is the tropical storm, and this is the projected route, right, of the storm, right? And you also have, so you can change the legend and the layers to look at different types of crisis. And these colors, will show you, some of them are like natural crisis alerts, some of them are flooding alerts, some of them are other kind of natural crisis alerts, right, in different part of the world. So I have noticed that sometimes when Southeast Asia, we have the typhoon in Philippines, right? it will also be shown on Google Crisis Map. And this map, you are able to embed it on your website, right? So you are able to select the location and then just embed it on your website. Or you can actually download, for example, the tropical storm location as well as the predicted route, right? You can download it as a KML file. KML file is a map file. And you can use those files and make your own map. If you know, of course, you have to know how to make a digital map, right? So those files you're able to extract from here and use on your own map making platform, right? The last tool is a new tool introduced by Google. It's called Google Earth Studio. It's very powerful, but currently it is not open for all. You need to request for access. This is very useful if you are doing TV production or video production. I'll just show you a demo on what kind of video this tool is able to produce.
Personal best times carrying momentum at this point of the track will be key. 乗せたロケットが鹿児島県種子島宇宙センターから打ち上げられます。このロケット
U.S. women's national team will be celebrating their record-setting third Women's World Cup trophy in the 5 boroughs, with the ticker tape parade today in Norman Hall.
All right. So if you want access to this tool, one way of doing that is to contact me or Trina. We're able to channel your request to Google team, and then they will be able to give you access to this tool. Just now you saw many 3D models of different cities, right? Those are not available in all the locations. It is only available in some locations. For example, Singapore, most of the parts have 3D models. In Malaysia, some of the parts in Kuala Lumpur, as well as Ipoh, and I don't remember all the cities, but certain cities, right, Google Earth Studio has the 3D model that just now you saw, right? Of course, there are more 3D models in the West compared to in Asia, but they are increasing the number of cities that have this feature on Google Earth Studio. Right. So this is the tip sheet that we can share with you today. Unfortunately, we are not able to share with you the slides, but by the way, the slides will be outdated, as well. So we prefer to share with you these tip sheets, and we might update the tip sheets if there's any updates necessary. So it's bit.ly/digital tools GNI, right? We are going to share this link in the YouTube chat box as well, so you can download from there. It's a Gdoc, right? You can download from there. Inside, you have all the links to all the tools that we share with you today. Okay. And that is all for today. I'm sorry that we overrun by 5 minutes. So before we say goodbye, if you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box. We're going to answer some questions now. And also, please, if possible, please spend a few minutes to fill up a feedback form. You can scan the QR code on the screen now to access the feedback form, or you can access the URL, the tinyurl.com/blah, blah, 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 that URL to access the feedback form. We really appreciate if you can give us your feedback, just a few minutes, so that we can know what you like and what is less useful in this training, and then how we can improve it. All right. So for tomorrow, we'll be doing the same training again, but it is in Bahasa Melayu. And on Thursday, we are going to do the same training again, but in the Chinese language, right? So tomorrow and the day after, same time, 3 p.m. Kuala Lumpur, Singapore time, we are going to repeat the same training, but in different language. Starting from next week, we have a new series of webinars which focuses on data journalism, right? That series will take up 4 weeks, right? Each week, 1 hour again, and then it will be conducted again in 3 different languages, Chinese, English, and Malay. And the registration is already open. You can check. You can check my Facebook, or we'll send you also an email to inform you about how to register for the next series of webinars. All right. So let's look at some of the questions. Trina, you want to go first for questions?
Hi. So I have answered some of the questions earlier over chat. If there's anything that's not clear, you may send in your questions now. The link, I just tested the QR code, it works. I've also tested the link, it also works. Just in case, I've copied the link in the chat, the comment box. So you may also click the link from there. Right, and let's see. Okay, maybe you want, I'm not sure if you want to further elaborate on the questions that were asked. I did try to explain however possible I can within the 200 word comment limitation. So the first was, does Google Alert apply to Facebook page posts as well? My answer was no. It only works with website and blogs. So which is why I can talk about CrowdTangle and Nozzle, because that's more specific to monitoring social media. And the second question was, Google public data looks similar to Flourish. Any distinct differences between them? Again, public data only takes on sources of information like WHO, World Bank, IMF, international organizations. So that, and then it comes with your basic chart along with it. But Flourish, you have to key in your own individual data. So you just say you extracted data from a state department or a statistics department or a government agency, you have to key it in to, you have to extract it maybe from a PDF using Tabula into an Excel format, clean it up, and then put it into Flourish. You can input your Excel sheet, you can upload your Excel sheet into Flourish, and then you can play around with Flourish and you can make it more interactive. So it basically just looks like a prettier version of a chart.
Yep. So just to add on, like for Google public data, right? It is actually a dataset search engine, right? The main feature is a search engine for dataset. It is not a visualization tool. The visualization feature is like a extra bonus feature in Google Public Data Explorer. If you are too lazy to move the data to your own visualization tool, you just want a simple, quick chart from the data, then you can use Public Data Explorer, right? But for Flourish is like a tool that doesn't have any data. You can't search any data from there. You have to use your own data and then make your own visualization. And the level of customizations on Flourish is very high. You can change the size, you can change the font, you can change the color, you can change a lot of things, right? Because it is a visualization tool. The Public Data Explorer is a search engine for data. Okay, so it's very different two things. All right, and a little bit on explanation on Facebook page is that after what happened to the Cambridge Analytica scandal, right, Facebook has increased their level of protection for their content significantly, which means that it is very hard for any tool to scrape data from Facebook. It is very hard to access the API provided by Facebook. Before that, it was much easier, and now it's very hard. So in that case, right, a lot of services have stopped giving you alerts about Facebook content, except those tools that are, approved or have a partnership with Facebook. For example, CrowdTangle, because CrowdTangle is actually owned by Facebook. So CrowdTangle is actually the best tool for you to monitor whatever that is happening on Facebook. Okay, and yeah, so I think I have answered all the questions. I think there are other questions coming in. Let me see.
Yeah, I think I also answered the question on whether the search operator is only limited to English, and I said no, you can also use other languages. And in the case of advanced, if you go to advanced search, you can even set the language for your search results. So if just say I'm using Chinese, I only want websites in Chinese to pop up as my search result. And the other question that just came in earlier was about when will Google Earth Studio become available to everybody?
So first thing to clarify, we are not working for Google. We are not part of the Google team, so we don't know when their products were coming out and things like that. But eventually, what I heard from them is eventually they will make it a public tool, just like Google Earth Pro. But now they are still like trying to fine tune the tool, so they only open up for a small number of users and try to get the feedbacks from the users, before they roll it out to everyone. But currently, the version that I try to use is already quite powerful. Yeah. So if you want access to that tool, feel free to email us, and we'll try to get the account for you. But you have to give us your Gmail account. It only works for a Gmail account, right? So don't give us your own company account. Unless your company account is Gmail based, then that's fine. All right. So if you can give us your Gmail account by emailing us, and then we will try to get you to use to get an access to Google Earth Studio. It is very useful for TV production and video production. If you are not doing both of that, just a web page, actually it's just like you can just play for fun, but it's not very useful, right?
So another question which I answered as well was about training for next week. So I have posted the URL for the registration URL for next week's training. So next week will be series 2. It will be focused on data journalism and visualization. So another person asked about wanting to learn about visualization from data, right? Which is webinar 3. We will talk about reporting with data visualization. So there's 4 different workshops starting from next week. First is introduction to data journalism. Second is discovering stories from data. Third is reporting with data visualization. And fourth is reporting with digital map. So you could choose which session you think is most useful and helpful for you and register there. Is there anything else? Let me see if there's any other questions.
There are like 2 questions I can take on one. VisualPing on news website. Okay, if you use VisualPing on news website, then basically every few minutes, if they publish something new, you will get an alert. So what happens is that your mailbox will be spammed by all the emails from VisualPing. But of course, you can also set the frequency of the alert. For example, I just want one alert every day, then they will just send you an alert every day, right? So it depends on how frequent you want alerts to be sent to you. But I don't think it's a good idea to use that on news website because it changed too fast, right? So if you want to monitor a news website for certain keywords, for example, you want to know if there's a latest story about a politician or about a policy, right? The better option would be Google Alert. Google Alert, you are able to put in the website as well. For example, you say I want to know about what Mahathir Mohamad, the word Mahathir Mohamad from this website. You can use Google Alerts for that purpose. All right, and there's another questions about Wayback Machine.
Wayback Machine. Maybe I can share screen on Wayback Machine so that you guys can actually see how it's done. So for example, okay, let me start now. Hang on, screen now. Share screen. Let's see.
I'll just ask. There's a question about Dean Open Link. So from Kritivasan, what do you mean? Which link? Can you tell us more? Feedback link. Oh, you want the feedback link. All right.
Let's get this through, and then after that we can go back to the feedback link. So for example, I want to track changes on a particular website. Let me think, what website? I will go back to the one that I always like to use, Jolo's website. So there was a time, I think a lot of local reporters were tracking in Malaysia, especially Malaysia Kini. I mean, you can't always be looking at the DOJ website and also the Jolo website, to track when the DOJ issue a specific, press release related to confiscation of from, regarding to 1MDB case, and also like when Joe Lo issued a statement to media, right? So Joe Lo's website right now has a statement to media URL link. Now what I do is, and I am not sure. Okay, maybe if I want to just look at how Joe Lo's website used to look like. Okay, so I can browse history, and I could look at all the times the site was saved. So you can see that it started saving in 2015, September 25th, 2015, and all the way to April 19, 2020. This is just by default crawling on its own. And you can see how the website used to look like. So for example, I'm about to look at 2016. There's this page saved on snapshot on March 4th. I click on it, and then I can get to see the old Joe Lo website. Okay, it takes time to load.
You have to okay. You have to load it.
It's loading.
Tab. Okay. Then we just
it's loading. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can see that the background is still the same, but the tabs are different. So what it looks like now, what it looks like then is different, because they have removed certain tabs and input new tabs. So, and even the message conveyed is not the same. So it used to be about how his profile as a philanthropist and entrepreneur, and now it's and his board appointments. Now it's all about his media statements and interviews, and basically defending himself with regards to 1MDB. So you could look at that, and this is one way to look at how a website, a page will look like. And this is useful usually for like corporate companies that you're trying to track. Maybe they have like a board director this person used to be a board director at this X company, but then it's no longer there. But you can't find it in the current website, but you can trace back to what it used to look like. Now, I was talking about save page right earlier. So for example, you wanna like save, I will go back to the main page, Wayback Machine here. So there's this link here. There's this little tiny thing here called save page now. So I could copy Joe Lo's current statements to the media page, right? And then I copy and paste it here, and then I click save page. And so voila, this current version would be saved. I don't have to screenshot it. I just have to click save page. This is what it does. So it's an option for you if you don't want to do the screen grab. You could actually just put it into Wayback Machine and save page now. So there's two things that you can do with Wayback Machine. One is to look at the old pages of a certain website. Second is if you know that this is a page that may change, that you foresee that after you publish a story, it may change, you could save the page now before you publish a story. Yeah, so this is how it's done. I will go back, I'll stop sharing now so that you can go back to the feedback URL.
The Wayback Machine, I'll just add in one more study case that I did just yesterday, is that I was looking at a suspicious website, news website in Malaysia that published a lot of things without any byline, without names. So I was trying to check who are the people behind the website. And the website links me to another company website that is supposed to be the owner of the website. The company website also is a very simple website, only have one page and there's no information. So I used the Wayback Machine to look at the website 1 or 2 years before. And using that, I was able to find, I was able to confirm that that company actually did like, they did like website hosting, basically it's an IT company. So the IT company now with the same name has started to publish a news website that has no name, has no byline at all, anonymous websites, and with a lot of hyper partisans content, right? So that is, so Wayback Machine is helping me to find the background of that company. I was able to know how the company websites look like 2 or 3 years before, and was able to find more information about that company. Yeah, so that's another study case. All right. So I think that's all for the questions. For the
there's one last question.
Yes. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, how to remove the page from Wayback Machine.
I have no idea, man.
It is not under our jurisdiction to remove pages
Yeah.
because we don't own Wayback Machine.
So Wayback Machine is like a library, right? So the library, they go out and collect materials and then they keep in their library. So if you want to ask the library, say, hey, can you remove that information about me? I'm not sure how you can do that. All right. But just to be sure that if the website is behind a paywall or is behind, you have to log in to look at the materials, then those materials will not be in Wayback Machine. They only look at public facing web pages. All right. And the feedback form, some say the link doesn't work. You can't just click the link. You have to copy and put into your web browser, all right, for you to access the feedback form.
But the fastest way that I already tested just now is to just open your QR scanner. And once you scan it, immediately brings you to the link.
Yeah, you can't remove. Tanko, you can't. I just saw your comment. You can't remove the page from Wayback Machine because it is like a library. It keeps collecting material. Yeah. All right. If there's no more questions, then it's almost 4:10. So we would like to say thank you for everyone who attended our webinar today. So hopefully we will see you again next week. All right. And if you have friends, who are more comfortable in other languages, please ask them to join us tomorrow and the day after. All right.
Thank you so much.